Hello, everyone. Welcome to VRIC Media, your most trusted voice in metals and mining. I'm your host, Daryl Thomas, and today we have the pleasure of interviewing Dale Whitaker, who is the author of The Great Gold Grift. I learned about Dale through a podcast with Tucker Carlson, and his story, I think, is going to be very valuable to you all, especially you all that are stackers of precious metals. How you doing today, Dale?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, agreed. And thank you for being willing to come on the show. So to start us off, I'm curious in your experience and how you got involved in precious metals and in that industry.
Yeah, so I'm an accountant by trade. I've been an accountant for 18 years now, a little over 18 years. And I was in a period of transition in my professional life. I had transitioned away from tax and I was looking to go into more managerial accounting. So I started a small bookkeeping firm, and as part of that, if there are others out there who remember Elance, Upwork it's called now, but right around when gig work started to take off in like the 2013, 2014 period, I onboarded with Elance, and I was bidding on jobs and so on. And one of the jobs that I bid on was for a company called Augusta Precious Metals. It was a new startup out of the greater Los Angeles area. And I ended up working for them on a part-time basis at that time. And then from there, it just grew into me essentially taking them on as a full-time client, and then me going to work for them full-time and actually giving up my book of business, and I went straight to just working for them full-time. So it was just kind of a natural progression into it. But it was, for me, it was never from an interest in precious metals. It was never from an interest in any natural minerals or anything like that. It was purely for me, just I'm an accountant doing a job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a paycheck, so and many people are looking for that paycheck. Do you think at your time there, did you begin to learn more about precious metals, the issue of debt deficits and the devaluation of the currency? I'm sure you probably learned a lot of that, right?
Yeah, I did. And I fundamentally understand it, and I think that those are all good arguments to hold gold, or silver or platinum, palladium, whatever your vice is. I think those are all good and valid arguments for doing that. At the same time, I also think that you should always check what your motive is in investing, whatever it is, whether it's stocks, bonds, whether it's precious metals. But I learned a lot, but really it was trial by fire, to be honest. I didn't really fundamentally understand the precious metals market at all. I had no experience in it, never been interested in it. It wasn't anything that really, again, drew me to it outside of having a job. So, my what I will say is my introduction to the precious metals industry was doing, rudimentary bookkeeping at first, and then as it grew and as I went to be the full-time accountant for them, the CFO for them, it essentially became the entire scope of my, I guess, formal training was the CEO of Augusta Precious Metals calling me on Skype and saying, okay, we got a meeting for an hour, and me having a whiteboard up on my wall, and he spoke and I took notes, and then everything else it was just self-taught over time.
Yeah. And I mentioned the story, the bull case for holding precious metals. I mean, obviously been money for thousands of years. It's mentioned in the Bible, all these different arguments for it. And I think that in your experience, from what I learned in that interview you did with Tucker Carlson, was that this story was used to, manipulate, some people and such. And so you ended up writing the book, The Great Gold Grift. And so, tell the audience about what you ended up finding out in this industry and how that impacted you and how did that impact the people you worked with.
Yeah, so fear-mongering is a large part of the industry, as you have probably seen, or anyone has seen that's watched this, if they've ever watched any form of conservative media, whether that's someone that has a podcast with less than 10,000 subscribers, or whether that's someone that has millions of subscribers, you're almost guaranteed to see a gold commercial. And this is true in conservative spaces. It's true also in Christian spaces. And I know those two things are typically synonymous, but I think there is a slight distinction there. And so what I learned was, I was there for about 3.5, 4 years. And at first I basically came to the conclusion that everything is willing buyer, willing seller, right? If I have something to sell to you and I tell you it's worth $100 and you disagree, and then we negotiate and we come to a price. For a couple of years, I think that was, my default position was, that's what it is. But the reason why I decided to quit the job and to blow the whistle was because willing buyer, willing seller works when the contract is upheld. Okay, so at Augusta, the way that we do it, and most of these companies, the way that we do it is there's a spread that you call in, you say, hey, I want to buy $100,000 in assets, and we say, okay, we'll sell you these assets, and we have a 29% spread. So you say, okay, and now they wouldn't disclose it that readily. I'm just saying if this were the case, because this may confuse some people. They never disclosed spread if they didn't have to. And so if those were the terms and we agreed upon those terms, then okay, fine, right? But what happened was there was a gentleman who wanted to sell back around 5,000 silver coins that we had previously sold him. He called and he said, I want to sell these coins back. And then Isaac Nuriani, the CEO of Augusta, called me and said, hey, we have a customer that wants to sell back 5,000 of their assets. I want you to draft a PO. And I was like, okay, cool. Which customers? It's very simple, right? The math is easy. It's just 29% off 100. Boom, you're done. So, but that wasn't the case. He was calling me because what he asked me to do on that call was to manipulate the spread on the coin. He wanted me to reduce the bid so that we would make more money, because in reality, the customer is going to receive less money, and then we're going to turn around and sell those coins again at a higher markup, because we can change the spread at will, essentially. Mm-hmm. And that was the moment where I said, hey, something's up here. This does not sound right. And I'll never forget it. I was like flush with the general, and I told him, nope, you do whatever you want, but leave me out of this. I want no part in this. And my wife was upstairs making lunch, and I ran upstairs. I just said, something is terribly wrong. Something is terribly wrong. And that just started me on the trajectory of really digging into this side of the industry and putting all of the pieces together and going, oh, this is way bigger than just one or two companies. Wow. So if let me make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So someone buys metal from the company marks up with the spread, right? And whether that's 29% or whatever, the person buys it, and that's the premium they pay. So then when they sell it back, you're underbidding, so that you're making money on the buy side as well. Is that? No. So this is where spreads and markups get conflated actually quite a bit, and they'll actually do this intentionally to clients to confuse them. So markup and spread are two different things. So markup is basically the amount above what our raw cost is for that asset, or our landed cost. You could even say what our landed cost is for that asset. So let's just take a rudimentary example and say that our landed cost is $71 for a coin. And we mark that up. Our landed cost is $100 for that coin, and we mark it up 100%. So now we're at $200, let's call it. So we then say, okay, but our spread is 29%. So our spread is 29% less than $200. Okay. So I've hit you now on the massive markup, the monumental markup that doesn't happen in any other area of this industry. And I've also hit you on the spread, because when you come back to sell it to me, unless the market has a massive bull rush, which we've seen in the last couple of years, but unless it has a massive bull rush, you're going to have to hold those assets for 15 years just to break even on average. So the reality is that these assets are set up in such a way that you will very likely never make money, and there's also only a very slim chance that you will break even. So they kind of hit you on multiple angles, but this is essentially how it works. The company goes to a reputable mint, and they see, like the Royal Canadian Mint, British Royal Mint, Perth Mint. These are the three big ones that they'll typically enter into these contracts with. They go to those mints, and they say, "We want you to mint us an exclusive coin that only we can distribute in the United States." And then what they do is they mint the coins with whatever design they choose, and they limit the mintage on the coins. They say, "We're only going to mint 200,000 of these coins." Now, when they receive this contract and they receive these coins, they now have control over the supply. They now have control over the demand, and they basically make up demand. They'll outright lie to you. They'll say, "Oh, we only minted 200,000. We only have 180,000 left. That's why they're X dollars, and that's why spot may be $1,000, but our quarter ounce coin is 2,500, right?" So whatever the numbers may be, they kind of justify them with basic principles of supply and demand, right? Yeah. And so, and that's the one principle they exploit most, because it's the one principle almost everyone has heard of and understands to a degree. So now that they have control of this specific coin, they call them exclusive, they call them premium coins. There's a couple other terms that they use, but basically, it's the coin that only they can sell in the primary market, and they have sole distribution over. Then they decide, okay, well, we have this coin. They decide then, well, we're going to mint this many, and we're going to sell these at this markup. So if you're a customer and you're calling in, and you have seen me on Ben Shapiro's show, Mark Levin's show, pick your poison, Sean Hannity, pick whichever one you want. Bannon, I mean, I could go on and on. You go through all of these, you go through them, you say, "Hey, I saw you on Ben Shapiro, I saw you on Bannon." Therefore, you've established a baseline of trust. So they're calling and they're saying, "Hey, I want these American Eagles because this is what I've been reading about. This is what I've heard is the best asset." And as they're getting you set up to invest your IRA, not cash, they want your IRA funds, because most people don't have $250,000 in liquid cash sitting in their bank account. It's in an IRA or a 401k or something along these lines. So as they're going and helping you through the process of setting up an IRA, they will court you. They will talk to you about the market. They'll use a little fear mongering if that's your vice, right? If you're panicking and you have this whole, your whole reason for investing is because you're scared of what's going to happen in the market, they will leverage that. The other thing that they will do is they will leverage, they'll be kind to you. They'll call you, they'll be like, "Oh, hey, Daryl, last time we spoke, you broke your leg, and I'm not calling to sell you, I'm just calling to see how you're doing, buddy. Like, how's your leg, right?" And then you'll spend 30 to 45 minutes on the phone with them, and you hang up and you go, "Man, that's really cool. Like, he just called me to see how I am." Well, he called you to see how I am because I got $250,000 I'm about to execute against Daryl, and I want Daryl to buy the asset that I want to sell him, not the asset that Daryl wants to buy. So once you fund your IRA with them, then they'll say, "Hey, I know you wanted to invest in American Eagles or Canadian Maple Leafs or Krugerrands or whatever it may be. However, this is actually a better asset for you." And they will go on this hard sell, and they will sell you. And the reality is that asset is not better for you. It's much, much worse. It is only better for them because they make massive commissions. I've seen anywhere from 7.5% to 20% commissions at my time at Augusta. Wow. And then plus bonuses. So if you hit sales metrics, they will pay you out bonuses on top of those crazy commissions. So the VP at Augusta at the time, for example, his name's Shade Johnson Kelly. He went on to start a firm called Red Rock Secured, who were sued into the ground. He has a lifetime ban from trading precious metals. But he, at the time, working basically 30 hours a week, 35 hours a week, he was making about $650,000 a year.
Wow. Yeah, that's a massive amount. That's some professional grifting right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hence the name of the book, The Gold Grift, because it is a professional grift for these guys.
Wow. So, okay, I'm going to make sure I'm understanding this correct. So if I wanted to buy American Eagles, Let's say I wanted to use my IRA and I got 250,000. I want all American Eagles. So you would be selling me American Eagles, but the thing is there's a market for American Eagles, and so I can go price shop if I wanted to, right?
Yeah.
Versus like whenever you create or you mint a special coin through one of the Canadian Royal Mint or the Perth Mint or whatnot, you would have ultimate pricing power over that specific coin. So you would just have to sell me on that particular coin and why it's the best asset or the best investment for my money.
Correct. So you hit the nail on the head. So the key here is that they have the exclusive right to distribute that coin, right? So if they don't have that, they cannot sell these, because you could go to any dealer and you could say, hey, I want to buy this coin from you, and they're going to be able to get that coin for you and distribute it for you. The term that they use in the industry is they call them shoppable coins. If your coin is shoppable, it makes it very, very hard for you to mark up that coin 50%, 100%, because if you're going to mark it up 50% or 100% on me, I'm going to go to my local mom and pop shop, or maybe I'll find another online dealer that's going to give it to me like 5% over. So why would I pay 50% to you when I can pay 5%? So if they don't have this exclusivity, then the whole house of cards collapses on them, and they're not able to make the money. Now, I will say that with a caveat, because this whole grift started actually using proof American Eagles, proof gold and silver American Eagles. So they would sell the 4-piece sets, 2-piece sets, the gold American Eagle proofs, and then they would do the same with the silver, and they would sell them at astronomical markups, because that, even though you can go and shop them, if I have the ability to get my hands on thousands of these coins where other dealers only have 100 of them, then I can mark them up above and beyond, and I can say, hey, we actually have the inventory and these are worth much more. And they would use essentially the same type of vernacular to sell the proofs in the way that they do these exclusive coins. They're better for you. They have a certificate of authenticity. It's like, okay, but my American Eagle is struck at the mint. I can trace it back. I know where it's struck. And if I'm getting it from a reputable dealer, we know that the U.S. Mint have very, very tight controls over distribution of their assets. They don't just distribute to anyone. It's very, very hard to become a distributor for the United States Mint. And so I say this because it's important to distinguish, and when you're buying assets, to know you need to buy coins that you can go elsewhere. If you're going to buy them en masse, and especially if you're doing it in an IRA, you need to be able to go to 4 or 5 different dealers and source those coins and get what we call shoppable coins, and make sure that you're price matching the best that you can. This is such a cutthroat industry. Real dealers, legitimate dealers, fight over pennies. I mean, you're talking, they will fight over pennies because the margins are so small. It's all volume based. Now, they throw that out of the window when you're dealing with these exclusive coins, because volume becomes less important. What becomes more important is the value of the person's IRA. The more money they have, the more money we can make. That's literally, so it flips it on its head.
Yeah. Is this any different than like a lot of the numismatic or collectible kind of coin industry? So I used to get into when I first got into gold and silver, I was buying these expensive collectibles with huge markups above like the spot price, because it has some type of design on it or colorization and such. And but you had like, reputable mints that were minting those coins, and they would appeal to like the sentimental value, whether that's like a childhood cartoon or something that you've watched, and people would pay up for that. What I noticed is that when I went to go resell those, I was getting offered significantly under what I paid for them, unless it was like a lower mintage and it was in high demand. Then I would be able to make a little more than what I paid for it. And so, is that similar to that, or do you think that side of the business is a lot different?
I think it's a lot different, and here's why I think it's different. Because when the mints mint those coins, the ones with colors and so on, they do it and they market them as limited mintage collectibles. So they're numismatics, and they're not being sold within an IRA, right? So you're always going to get way less. I view those coins as basically, I'm going to get a gift for my grandson or granddaughter for their birthday, or my daughter for, right? And it's just going to be this cool thing that's a little bit different. You're not buying it necessarily at that point just for the value of the metal. That's kind of an aside. It's like, hey, this thing's cool. And hey, by the way, it actually will always have value. It might not always be worth what I paid for it, or it might never be worth what I paid for it, but it'll always have some form of intrinsic value. This is a lot different because these coins are being marketed in a completely different way. They're not sold as numismatics. They're not sold as collectibles. In fact, if they were being sold that way, they would not be IRA eligible, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that's where this comes in. Like, this is really, really important to understand, because we're not talking about now. Don't get me wrong. If you had $250,000 to $100,000 in cash, they will try to sell you these things outside of your IRA. But again, most people do not have that liquid cash available outside of their IRA, so they target the IRA specifically because they need access to high amounts of cash, because they know they're not going to be able to sell these coins at these prices in volume. They have to target a certain segment of the industry. The 50 plus conservative Christian is who they target, and they have to do it in such a way that they will fearmonger and gain trust. And so they'll exploit those two things, and then they sell you these overpriced coins, which they're not even numismatic, they're just bullion. If you really get down to it, there's bullion coins that are minted for these companies, and the only intrinsic value that is in there is the asset value. Everything else is fluff. It's just them saying, we're only minting 200,000 of these. We're only minting 100,000 of these. That doesn't inherently add value. Now, I would say on the flip side of that, with let's say it's a Mickey Mouse coin or something like this, that has a little more intrinsic value and saleability than just a typical bullion coin, because people like to collect Mickey Mouse things, right? So I think that there is a direct distinction there, and they're definitely not the same thing, not just in which way that they're marketed, but because of the markets in which they're trying to sell them in, right? You're not going to sell a Mickey Mouse coin to someone who's wanting to invest $250,000 into an IRA. They're going to look and go, you're selling me a coin with Mickey Mouse on it? In my IRA, like, it would undermine your whole thing, right? So two different things. There are a lot of scams out there in the gold industry, lots that I learned about and still learning about, things that I still get sent things from people like, hey, this happened to me, and I'm like, wait, what? And it's just like it's just like things that you could never imagine, that you'd be like, wow. Some people are just completely brazen. But in this case, I think, those coins, I look at them a little bit differently. I think, hey, if you're buying that, you're buying it as a gift for someone usually.
Yeah. What are some of the most shocking stories or experiences you had when you were diving deeper and investigating this?
Well, I think what really struck me, one, it's that the Senate actually had a special committee. I forget the year. I want to say 2015, 2018. There was actually a special committee on this exact issue, and they had a 25 page report that came out of this committee, the special committee that was put together for this purpose, and it just went nowhere. So that's one of the things where I go, holy cow, guys, like, what are we doing here? Like, you guys have, and there was a lot in that report that was missing. It wasn't great, but it was like, hey, this is a start. You guys were on the right track. Keep going, and you would get to this point. And then the other thing, there was a bill on the House floor at one point. The disgraced Anthony Weiner, the congressman out of New York, he actually was having a massive feud with Glenn Beck at one point publicly about this, about Gold Line. And, they had a bill on the House floor, and of course he went to prison for sending pictures to underage girls, and so that died. And the fact that no one, and I understand this from like a political thing, I don't want to touch something that's been touched by someone that has that track record, but the reality is this needs a bill in the House for to fix. So it's shocking to me that the handful of Congress people that I've talked to at length about this issue, that know about this issue, that I know about this issue, that they're not willing to pick it up. So those are shocking. Now, on the scam side of things, It's the sheer amount of them. I mean, it's just insane. Like, obviously, we know about the Chinese fakes and them wrapping other metal types in trace amounts of gold, silver. We know about these. We know about the Chinese panda issues. But the amount of companies that upsell graded coins way and above the value of that they actually are, that's a crazy one to me. The amount of non-delivery scams where companies will pop up, they will, sell coins and then never deliver. That's the sheer amount of those. The paper contract scams are crazy to me. I think that's the one where that just blows me away. There's so many, Daryl, to be honest with you, that it's kind of overwhelming. And, I've had people reach out and say, hey, can you help me in this area? And, as much as I want to, I only have so much time. And I just say, hey, like, that's just not I want to help you, but it's just not my area of expertise. I can't help you in that.
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine some people lost like retirement fortunes, in this, scam. Many fortunes have been lost. I used to state, because it's hard to know because it's all private dollars, I used to state that this industry was probably $1 billion a year, conservatively. I know that Merit Financial in their height were doing 200 to 250 million a year. And then they got shut down. They got sued by the city of Santa Monica, and they went out of business. And, Merit Financial, as big as they were at their height, Birch Gold are probably 4, 5, 6x what Merit Financial were. So I would wager that Birch Gold are probably doing close to like 400 to 500 million a year. With the amount of money that they pump into marketing and buying all the conservative talking heads, I would say even today it's probably, and having conversations with other experts in the industry, Chris Olson over at Battalion, Andy Scheckman over at Miles Franklin, they're more of the ilk that this is more like 2 to 3 billion a year that's being pulled out of people's retirements. And the shocking part is sometimes people get hit multiple times. So, you'll call and you'll buy from me, and I'll be at company X, and that company goes out of business, and then I call company Y because I have these assets that company X sold me and nowhere to go with them. Everywhere I go is giving me these bids. And then company Y, if you type in, gold IRA company, the top 10 are most likely scams. I haven't done it in a while, but the top 10 are most likely scams. So when you do this, the likelihood of you getting another scam company is massive. Like 90+% of the time you're going to get another company that's going to scam you. So you've already been hit by company X. You've already taken, let's say, a 50% hit on your IRA. So your 100,000 is worth 50. And then they'll, I can't believe they sold you this coin. It's such, what we'll do? We'll get you into something better, Daryl. Don't worry. We'll take care of you. What we're going to do is we're going to take your $50,000 in assets that you have here, and we're going to actually, we're going to pay you a little bit over what they're worth, and then we'll get you into some good coins. Okay, Daryl, we'll take care of you, buddy. Don't worry about it. And then they hit you and they sell you crap coins again. They're just a different crap coin because they all have their own crap coin. So, so I've seen people that come to me and they've been hit 2 or 3 times, and I'm just, it's like you just sit there in disbelief and you're like, no, there's just no. The remedy is either you sit and you wait for the CFTC and the SEC to do something, and they're understaffed, they're under-resourced, and these cases take a long time, or you sue them, and those are the only two options people have, and most people are not litigious. So it's really very difficult to get people into the comfort zone of like, hey, you should probably sue these people. Yeah, for sure. Shout out to Andy Scheckman. He's a regular guest on the show. Always appreciate him. So what should investors do? Like for me, I haven't touched that gold IRA, cause I first of all, I didn't understand it. And I've been trying to wrap my head around it. Like, okay, what's the difference? Okay. Yeah, maybe there's some tax benefits, things of that nature. But, I have gold in my, my safe. I got gold in the depository. I got gold in the vault. Like, so why do I need this? And so for me, it's never really came across like as a need. I thought about it a couple of times, but like for those that are considering these types of services, what should be the big things they're looking out for?
Well, there's many arguments, but the fundamental things you look out for: make sure that you buy bullion at the closest price to spot as possible. Now, look, I understand if you want to go, if you just like the Silver American Eagle and you're okay with paying a little bit more for the Silver American Eagle over a Canadian Maple Leaf, okay. But understand that when you do that, you're going to pay less in assets overall that you're going to have, right? You're going to have less silver. An ounce of silver is an ounce of silver is an ounce of silver. An ounce of gold is an ounce of gold is an ounce of gold. So what I always tell people is go find coins, rounds, bars, whatever it is that you're interested in, and shop them. Go to 4 to 5 dealers, get the best price you can possibly get. Look, and if you're okay with paying a couple of cents more because you liked the salesman, okay, that's absolutely fine. You're perfectly fine with that. But just make sure you're not paying 100% over spot. So that's the first thing. Second thing I would say is just do a little bit of education. You don't have to be a wizard. Just go down. The math isn't actually that hard when you get into it. It's just simple division and multiplication and addition. So just sit down, take your time. There's no rush. Don't panic to buy. Don't panic buy. Panic buying is the worst thing ever. So one of the things that these companies do is you got to buy now. Like, we have to do this because gold's probably going to surge, silver's probably going to surge, whatever it is. So hold your horses. Look, if silver moves 5% tomorrow, that's okay. You're not going to hold this for 3 weeks and then sell it. You're going to hold this thing for decades, most likely. So the reality is just relax, sit down, figure out the math. And there's actually a calculator on my website, dalewhitaker.com. You can go and there's a calculator there that can help you with this. But sit down, do the math, understand the math so that when you're talking to people, you have a pen and piece of paper or a pencil and a pad in front of you, and you just sit and you write it down. Okay, so this is this percentage, this is this many dollars above spot, and so on. Do a bunch of shopping. Again, I think that it's absolutely permissible that you pay a point more, a point and a half more because you like working with Andy or you like working with Chris at Battalion or you for whatever reason. I think that's okay. But do not pay above and beyond market rate, like astronomically above and beyond market rate. So just shop, understand the math, research, do not panic buy. Those are the 4 big things. If you do those 4 things and you take your time and do those things, you will be okay. You will get good assets.
Yeah, and you might need to run if they say if you ask for American Eagles and they say no, we have this other coin that we want to sell you. It's a special coin. You might want to run for the hills, right?
If I were to sell you a coin, if you were to call me and say, Dale, what should I buy? And you're like, I want coins, not rounds. Okay, so now we know you want coins, not rounds. Okay, what about bars? I'm not interested in bars. I want coins. Okay, so we know we're going to buy you coins. Okay, so you set that criteria. The way I would sell it, if I'm a legitimate dealer, which is what most of them do, is they're going to display their prices on their website for all of their assets, and you're going to be able to see what's worth what and what's selling at what. Now, I would say, hey, you can buy the Eagle. Is there a reason? Do you have a preferential reason for that coin over the Maple Leaf or a Krugerrand or whatever it may be? Because I can get you those cheaper. Doesn't affect me any. I'm going to make my slim margin anyway. They oftentimes are operating only on 3 points gross to net, right? So it's not a huge margin. So do you want Maple Leafs? I can get you more of them for the same dollars, or do you want Eagles? So I would say yeah, but if their sales pitch is, I have something better for you. This will perform better for you. This will be, in the long run, hold this thing for 5 to 10 years. This will outperform anything else in the market. It's been proved, any extraordinary claims about what the asset's performance will do, future claims of any future profit, the supply demand, if they start talking about supply and demand, that kind of thing. It's just like run for the hills. And if they're really, really pushy, if you say, nope, I want this thing, and they're like, well, hold on, and then they keep pushing and pushing and pushing, just hang up the phone. You don't have to deal with that dealer. And if they, and I'll also put an asterisk on this. Sometimes they will wait until they have funds on account, because a lot of these guys will not close the deal. This is normal in the industry. They're not going to close the deal until they have proof of funds, or the funds are in their hands so that they can just execute the trade immediately, so they're not exposed to the market. So a lot of times what these companies will do, they'll wait till they've received the funds from the custodian, the IRA custodian, and then they'll put the pressure on, because now you're panicking. You're going, oh, wow, okay, these guys have $200,000 of my money. Not just my money, but my IRA. And they're being really pushy. Or sometimes what they'll do is they won't call you back for 2 days. And you're sitting going, these guys have my life savings. What do I do? So if they play games like that, tell them to send your money back immediately. And if they do not comply, very likely they've committed wire fraud. And what I would say then is call your local FBI and say, I've asked these guys for my money back. I think I'm being scammed, this XYZ, and that will light a fire under them very, very quickly.
Yeah. Great advice there, Dale. Appreciate you for sharing that and sharing your story with us. So where can people buy your book? And also you mentioned your website. Plug the audience with what you have going on.
Yeah, so if you are interested in getting a copy of the book, you can go to Amazon. It's on Amazon. I self-published there, so you can go to Amazon, type in the Gold Grift, or type in Dale Whitaker. It'll come up. You can also just go to my website, dalewhitaker.com. You can reach out to me there. You can also, there's a direct link to the book there if you want it. But I will say, the book really serves one purpose, and that's just to educate. It's not, I never wrote the book to make money. So unless you want to learn and you are interested in the story of how this happens, I would say you don't need to buy the book. If you just listen to the things that we've talked about and watch some of my other interviews, and you just do a little bit of research, spend a few hours, you really don't need the book to help you. If you just follow what we've talked about here today, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. And we've mentioned a couple of good dealers in this segment. You have Andy Scheckman on all the time. You've got Chris Olson over at Battalion. There's many good dealers that will take care of you. So I would say just stick to what you've learned here, and save your money. The book is really there just for the story and the education behind it. And I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate that as well, and that just shows that you're a stand-up guy with integrity. You're not just trying to profit off people. You're like, hey, don't buy the book if you don't need to. Got the information here, but if people want to go support, be sure to go support Dale's book and buy that. And so, thank you, Dale, for coming on the show, and everyone else. Thank you for watching. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet. Love to have your support, and thank you all. If you enjoyed this interview today and found it valuable, I encourage you to click the link that is pinned in the comments, as well as the description to the Commodity University, as we go deeper into what drives commodities and commodity pricing. And we also jump into different dynamics of this industry. And so I encourage you to click that link to learn more. Go check it out.